There are five main factors that affect how we think about designing a supply chain network in addition to the product cost. And they are transportation, inventory, the cost of operating the facilities, taxes and tariffs or other kinds of border implications, and customer service. Let's talk through a few examples and see how different factors may have different weights in different settings. I want to start with an example of maybe something a normal standard product like office products or office supplies, copy or paper, pads and pencils, things like that. And the supply chain for that might look something like I have some plant, some manufacturing plant where I'm producing these products, probably located near a forest if it's paper so that I have the raw materials nearby. And so I'm producing paper, and then I'm going to ship that into a distribution center, and then that distribution center is going to go out to a store. And for the moment, let's imagine that we're not having online orders for this. And so relatively straightforward supply chain. And so if I think about these five factors, this is a heavy product, and it's not all that expensive, and it's not going to go out of style. If I'm buying a pad of copy or paper, it's not going to be last year's fashion, so I don't really need to worry as much about the inventory costs as I would in some other settings that we'll talk about. And so here, because it's so heavy, not so expensive, transportation is going to be a key focus. I'm not really going to have a whole lot in the way of tariff issues if this is a domestic supply chain. And so what I'm really going to be focused on is how I can manage transportation. And so there I'll be focused on how can I make sure I'm sending full container loads or full truckloads from the plant into the distribution center, and then bringing together other products maybe that I could mix with that copy or paper in the distribution center and bring that out to the store, really focused on the transportation cost. What I'm likely to see in that kind of network is I'm going to try to position distribution centers close to stores because I'm shipping this full truckload in. I may not have enough volume to ship full truckloads or full container loads of copy or paper to each store, which means I'm shipping that very heavy product on a much smaller transportation mode, like less than truckload, and that's going to be very expensive. And so for an example like this, where transportation costs are going to be a big factor, you'll tend to see a network with more distribution centers so that I can position them closer to stores and shorten that last mile distance. Not so much for the speed to market, but really because of the transportation cost. That's the office products example. If I look at a product with very different characteristics, if I think about fast fashion, if I think about seasonal apparel, where I need to get it to the stores very quickly and care a lot about speed of customer service, I may have very different settings. So let's take a look at what that supply chain might look like. We'll do apparel in a different color. And so if I think about the apparel supply chain, I might manufacture these at some manufacturing plant. I'll actually call this CM because in this industry, actually, lots of the product is manufactured by contract manufacturers. So the brand, the name on the store that you would see probably aren't manufacturing it. They're contracting with somebody to manufacture it. And then they're going to ship those products probably from far away to a port. And so we may be manufacturing these far away in, let's say, Malaysia, and then shipping them into Rotterdam or somewhere in Europe to a port to take them off of a ship, or maybe they're being shipped by air. And then they're going to go to a distribution center. A distribution center or a fulfillment center where we'll take this full container in, and then we'll send that out to maybe a couple of stores. So that'll be store 1, and this will be store 2. Right? And so now what's going on? So I'm sourcing the product where it's effective for me to manufacture it or to have it manufactured. It's going to go through a port, into a distribution center, and out to a store. We'll get to online orders with this example in a minute, but let's imagine right now we're focused on this kind of setting. So this is a product, if I'm talking about fashion or apparel, it's not very heavy like office products, but it may go out of style, and so I may be very concerned about ending up with too much inventory because I won't be able to sell it later in the season or the following year. And so there's going to be a bigger focus on my inventory cost. It's a light product, so I'm going to be less concerned about transportation. And so this is a situation where I might see fewer facilities relative to up here. So up here, if I imagine, for example, I'm in the US, I would see 5, 10, maybe 15 distribution centers throughout the United States trying to cover this market. I was using Europe as an example here, shipping this into the Netherlands. I might see a distribution center only in the Netherlands for all of Europe because I want to keep the inventory in one place so that I can deploy it to different stores. By bringing the inventory together, I'll make it easier to keep my inventory costs down. And so in supply chains where I see the inventory being a much bigger deal than the transportation, I'll see fewer distribution centers. So that's the direction that my supply chain will look like. So let's now add online orders. And let me re-emphasize the most important of these 5 factors is the customer service. Because if we're not delivering something that a customer values, there's no point in doing any of this. And so let's imagine we have a customer here. A big smile on their face, hopefully. I don't know what happened to their other leg. Sorry about that. And so maybe they go to the store to buy the product. Maybe they, dare I do it, get on their mobile device and order online. And this is the world that we're operating in now with this what we call omnichannel. So going to the store is one channel, online is another channel. We use the term omnichannel to say we want the customer to have access to all of the channels all of the time and have it be a seamless experience for them. So if they're apparel shopping, they might go to the store, but they might buy online. It's pretty common for apparel manufacturers to have products that are available only online. And so now I could have a product flow where this customer orders online and the product is sent directly to them. I also have to think about the possibility of maybe I'm going to fulfill that online order from the store. And so now I need, when I'm running my supply chain, I need to think about the inventory that's available collectively, figure out how to deploy it. When we build network optimization models, we start to get insight about the cheapest flow path or fastest flow path to the customer for the product and where it's valuable to have the product. And so this gives us some intuition. These examples give us some intuition of a big, heavy product where I care about transportation more than inventory, lots of distribution network, focus on transportation economies of scale. Here where I'm worried about inventory, make sure I have access to all of the inventory information so that I can figure out how to best deploy it. But those general intuition directions aren't sufficient. That's why we spend the time building models that take care of all of these. I haven't mentioned anything about the taxes and tariffs yet. An example that might relate here is the location of my fulfillment center or distribution center supporting stores or online orders may be affected by border issues or, let's say, certain companies choosing to leave a united block of other countries. And that may affect whether I would locate this distribution center in England or in the Netherlands or other places in Europe. So taxes and tariffs could come into play for that. And so I build network models to try to optimize all of this. We've gone through these 5 categories and thought about managing each of these links. I'll mention last that facility cost, right? So I'm willing to pay the extra facility cost here to get the efficiency in transportation, and I prefer to avoid it here to get best use of my inventory. So these are the basic ideas and driving factors of how we think about managing a supply chain. The key is figuring out how to map out the supply chain, how to collect the right data, build the optimization models, and get insight into how to structure this problem. Then there are lots of executional issues about how do I bring all of this together. There's still a huge number of challenges for companies trying to manage in this omni-channel world where customers can go in the store, they can return to the store, they can buy online. But that means that there's lots of opportunities for you to add value and bring insight to improving these situations. Lots of exciting things to work on as we think about managing supply chains in this omni-channel environment.